Rice and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be painting a Bluebell woods. I hope you're going to enjoy this video and get lots out of the tips and techniques that I'm going to share with you. So shall we get started? I'm going to do the background first, the only drawing you need to do here. And the good thing about that is just going to be all about the bluebells. So you can draw this with a pencil as well, no worries. There we are. That's all the drawing that's required at this stage. I'm going to mix up my colours now. I'm going to mix up some yellow to start with. So I'm going to paint the background of the trees. I've got my Quinacridone gold there as well. So I'm going to get that little bit of that in there as well. The yellow, whoops, contaminated that a little bit. Let's just get some fresh yellow in here. You could actually put a pinch of the Paynes grey in there, which is makes nice green. So I just want to put a little bit of light, a little bit of sky at the top. So that's all I'm mixing. I'd like to sort of wet it, get underway, and then if I need to add any more colour I can. So I'm just going to collect this little bit of blue first, just dropping that in here and there. Might make that a tad darker because I've wet the paper and it's diluted. Whoops. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave that there. That can be part of the trees. I'm going to go elsewhere for my blue. There we are. I was just about to wipe that off and I thought, well, it can just be trees. Isn't that a beautiful colour? This Winsor Newton paper is so lovely and textured, the rough paper, so I really like it. So there we are, and I'm going to start putting on a little bit. I might even just drop in a little bit of that Quinacridone gold. Lovely. Isn't that pretty? It's so fresh. That's what I love about this. It's lovely and fresh colours. Now I'm just going to drop a little bit of this very light green in. It's very yellowy green in the background. I am using the size 14 brush because it's got such a, look at that point, and it holds so much paint. I mean, what I would say though is keep getting fresh paint, and that way the paper all stays consistently the same wetness, as it were. You don't want bits drying, and dry patch here, a wet patch there. You want to try to sort of keep an eye on that, just because if you put wet into a drying wash, you're going to get a back run. So you always want to try and keep the consistency the same or make the paint slightly creamier. So I'm just going to add a little bit of blue now to that there, and then just drop in slightly, picking off a little bit of the yellow as well, just dropping a little bit of touches of green just around the bottom area, and maybe a little bit of the Quinacridone gold there as well, just around there, possibly just around here at the base here. And you can see, because I just wet it to here, the paint's not moving anymore. Even when I've got it on a tilt, it stays put. So you get that control, which is quite nice. Turquoise. I want a limey green, not that limey, but pick a little bit more of that, so it's a real. See the difference there between the ultramarine with the yellow and that there? It's much, because a cooler blue like the phthalo turquoise makes a much better, brighter green, and the ultramarine, because it's got tiny particles of red in it, when you mix it with yellow, you get a warmer, slightly muddier green, but quite a nice green. But you can see how there's some quite nice cooler colours there. So I'm just popping that in here and there. So I'm just varying them. So it's quite nice to get your base colours started, and then you can just drop in other colours here. So my brush is not too wet, but one way of making sure it's not too wet is just wipe it off on a bit of tissue so that you get the control. And I'm just picking off a couple of little puddles here as well, so they don't sort of give me back runs later. Right, I think I will leave that for now like that. You could, if you wanted you could give that a little tilt as well. So I'm going to let that sort of dry off a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix up some bluebell colour. So I'm starting off with the ultramarine, and I'm adding a little bit of the pink. That's quite pinky in my eyes, so I'm just going to get a little bit more of the blue. But you can vary it, and you can also use another blue if you want to. Use cerulean or cobalt blue is quite nice as well. But that's kind of my base colour. But I'm going to use a little bit of this lavender as well because I love it. That's the main reason. I really love this colour. I might just put a tiny touch of the cobalt violet as well, which is a very pinky, like lavender colour. I've got sort of 3 colours mixed. And now what I want to do is go back to this colour here. I'm going to be using some of that. I've actually used the green Apatite Genuine there. So clean water, clean brush. What I would say is you might want to let that dry. So I'm actually going to leave a little white gap just so that it doesn't, just for the demonstration purposes. I've just hit the green there though. There's risks, there's lots of risks involved here. I'm going to change my water again because there's a little bit of green in there. I quite like that, the way that's run down actually. So I'm just, remember, just gently, oh, it's actually beautiful the way that's run down. Lovely. So I'm going to keep that, it's quite nice. Just wetting the paper really gently, lots of water, let it soak into your paper for a bit. So it really kind of creates a nice, it gets really nice and damp, gives you longer to paint as well. And I'm going to pick up some of this lavender colour and just paint that in there some more. I think it's picked up some of the violet colour as well. So as I said, if you haven't got either of these 2 colours, you can use cerulean and opera rose or permanent rose. So it's absolutely fine. So I don't want it to mess up that. So I'm just sort of painting up to it, but not over it. It's actually quite nice with this white edge as well. It's quite interesting. Okay, so moving down. Remember to leave gaps as well. So I'm going to leave a few little gaps here and there for the green. You can just sort of copy the photograph if you want to, but you want to leave a few little gaps. What I'm going to do now is swap a little bit now to the ultramarine. It's gorgeous, isn't it, that colour, the ultramarine, and the opera rose. Again, you could use cobalt blue and permanent rose. I'm going to make a touch more of that at this stage here. I'm just sort of getting that on. Isn't that gorgeous? Lovely colour. I've got a little bit more blue there, so I might drop a little bit more pinky shade in as well. I'm just going back in now, putting a few more splodges here and there. I'm going to swap now to the smaller brush because I don't want my green to go into my Bluebell colour. I've actually just made a thicker yellow here as well. Just put it in the gaps. Don't touch the Bluebells. They're just sort of tickling through there like that. Just gives it a little bit of colour. You want to keep getting fresh paint all the time so that your colour remains nice and clean. So I'm just going to get a bit of that cascade green here. Just pop a little bit of that there, just in the foreground, and a little bit over here as well. Maybe go to the phthalo turquoise just to get a slightly darker green. Just get a little bit more here as well. I'm just sort of doing sort of grasses sort of effects just at the foreground here. So I'm not worrying too much about going over the bluebells because it's in the foreground. Adding a little bit more of creamy paint here as well on the yellow. So I was going to go back into my ultramarine and pink, just using the size 4 brush still. I'm just wanting to put some darker marks in there, here and there, bluebells. I'm just going to protect my trees and just give that a little spatter like that. It's such fun to do. So what I'm going to do now is just sprinkle some salt on, and that will absorb the paint and you'll get some lovely light areas. I'm just going to put it on in the foreground more than the distance, just to create this lovely texture coming towards us, and it'll give us some depth in the painting. So I'm going to let that dry, which will probably take about 30 minutes altogether. So the salt has dried and I'm just brushing it off now with some kitchen towel. So I'm going to turn this upside down. I'm just masking out my bluebells now. I didn't want to get anything on the bluebell colour. I quite like it when it's upside down because it's sort of easier to sort of paint trees, the trees coming forward. It's a lot easier. So just sort of take your time. I quite like painting trees because they're quite sort of forgiving things. This brush is lovely, by the way, because you can get really nice, beautiful point. I'm just kind of sort of starting off. Branches are always thicker and then near the tree, and then you just lift up a little bit like that. So putting a couple more. So you can spend quite a bit of time actually sort of painting these trees. And then again get that burnt sienna and the Paynes grey and just put the dark on the right hand side like that. And then you can just lift off again with your tissue, the light, just here and there, just a little bit of dappled light is quite effective. Give my painting a blow dry, and I'm going to use the sponge now. So I'm going to dip it into some and then wring all the water out in the yellow, the phthalo blue and the Quinacridone gold together. So you can just paint that on your sponge, or you can dip your sponge in. I'm just going to sponge a little bit here. Just press really gently when you're sponging. It just gives a little bit of texture, doesn't it, to those trees. I'm just going to use a little bit of the Paynes grey with the Quinacridone gold and pop that on there. It's quite a nice colour. I just wanted to put a little bit of darker shades just here and there, not too much. I don't want this to be too busy with texture, but I just wanted to go over the base a little bit of the trees just to push them back a bit there, like that, which is quite nice. I'm really making myself less is more with these. And if you're worried as well about this, just going over your bluebells, just put something there like that so it controls that. And I'm just gonna, that's quite nice. I just love painting foliage like in this way. I think I'm going to leave it there for now. I am tempted just here and there to give it a little spray. See, that really does soften it a little bit, so that it's still got that texture of the sponge, but it just sort of pushes that back a little bit. I don't really want to do too much of these bluebells. I want to keep it really fresh, but I'm just going to use the spray again just to spray the bluebells rather than using a brush. I'm just going to give them a little spray like that. I just wanted to spray really to get some of that, maybe some of that green running down there, so it's sort of not got that hard edge anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my lavender. I'm going to put it over here so I don't have to lean across the painting, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the side there, and just there we are, nice clean paint. Oh, it's so pretty, really pretty. I really like that. I want to get it up into the trees a little bit as well, so really look at that. Nature at its best, really just sort of get some lovely something going there. I think I'll get a little bit more of that cobalt violet as well, but as I say, you could use cerulean and some permanent rose, something like that, just to kind of put that in there a little. And again, I say it doesn't matter if it gets on the green. Just coming further down here, I'm going to get some ultramarine now, put that there, and some of the pink, just to make a bit of a stronger violet. There we are, a little bit more of that. Put some of that stronger colour here and there. I don't want to do too much of that because I don't want to spoil what I have. And I'm just going to use my brush now just to put in some of the paint just at the bottom of the tree, so you've got that divide there. Just dropping it in really because it's nice and wet there, so it's like little bushes and things like that. Again, this is a lot of artistic license. I'm not copying the photograph now, and I'm interpreting. It's lovely the way the light is there. I do like that. And what I thought I'd do is just get some of the blue, the ultramarine again, and the pink, a little bit of the pink, make a puddle of that nice strong violety bluebell colour. I'm just going to sponge some of that colour just around there, maybe a touch here. I don't want to lose all my lovely salt, but I just want a little bit more stronger texture here and there. Just want to put a few more grasses in there like that. Just, it's lovely, this brush, it gives you such a fine point, it's so nice. Foreground going on here, so you're just putting in a few grasses. I'll give that a little spray to soften that. So it's just got that essence of the grasses there without overdoing it, and I've kept my lovely underpainting as well. I thought I might just do a little spatter of green, just a little bit there. So I'm going to take off the framing tape now, just to reveal hopefully a border that's still white. I hope you've enjoyed the wet on wet sky, the light there, the building up of the trees, the sponging, the spraying, the very sort of soft way, and the way we painted the bluebells in at the same time as the green, but preventing the green and the bluebell colour running in together. I really hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions about what I've done in the tutorial today, put them in the comments section below. Thank you again for watching. Happy painting. Bye for now.